Hello everyone, this is going to be the first video for the build overview for the Cold Snap of Power Occultist for 3.24 Necropolis. It's been about 24 hours since the league launch and, well, this is how the build is looking at this point. I started off in the private league with my friends. We have about, I think, 24 people at this point, 23, 24 people in the private league, so that's going very well. Started off in Act 1, used Creeping Frost. Well, at the very start I used Freezing Pulse up until level 12, I think you get it, in Merville's Cavern, at which point I switched to Creeping Frost. I used lesser volley support to help with that, and I think added lightning damage. And I basically used that 3-link all the way until Act 3, until Lab. Overall it went pretty smooth, there's nothing really too much to talk about, just take the basic passive points, take like the HP nodes, practical application, things like that, Frostweaver, and just go from there. However, to then get into the actual build, I'm going to need Cold Snap of Power, of course. I wanted to try to get this gem as soon as possible. I really didn't want to wait until Merc Lab to farm it, even though it's probably the smarter idea. I wanted to play with it as soon as I possibly could, so normal lab time, right? Yeah, got around to that. I think it was like level 29, level 30 by the time I went to the lab. And I was prepared to just grind out the rest of the evening just sitting in lab. I was on voice chat with my friends, thankfully. I was having a wonderful time and decided to just hunker down, get it done. Also, on another note, I just found a Qual 10 lightning trap in lab. So this is of course the blessed gem drop that will transform into the Cold Snap of Power, and it will have 10 Qual, which makes power generation even easier. Alright, and that's why it's gonna drop right here, right now. Lightning trap, Cold Snap of Power, it actually worked.
And it's also 10 Qual.
You're welcome.
It actually worked. It has 10 Qual. Oh, it's actually done. I'm done. Got very lucky on that one, but it only took me 3 tries, so I'm very happy with that. At that point I had my gem ready, of course, and it was time to swap into the actual setup. And I think I was still on a 3-link at this point, so I used the actual gem, Cold Snap of Power, along with Power Charge on Crit and I want to say Spell Cascade. Though later down the line I would swap this over to Intensity, as soon as you get the option to do that. Intensity just maps a lot better, and honestly, the AoE loss isn't that much from losing Spell Cascade, but the damage that you get from it, Intensify will help a lot more. Kept that going as well. At level 38 you also pick up Spell Echo for your last slot in the 4-link, and that should keep you going. Now, one of the main problems you're going to have is early on you're going to need a lot of power charges. After all, Cold Snap of Power consumes power charges when you're casting. To fix this, I ended up using a Stormbrand linked together with increased critical strike chance and also power charge on crit. That, combined with some early crit nodes and some early power charge shenanigans on the tree here and there, should give you just about enough power charge generation to constantly be able to cast. It's still a bit inconsistent, especially at this point, and that's also why I started like pathing to as much crit as I possibly could. However, it still took a little bit to get going. It only really started going once I got my 2 4-links in there, because at that point I was using faster casting with Stormbrand as well. That really helped out a lot, just increasing the cast speed, generating power charges faster. And of course, the Spell Echo on the Cold Snap of Power really helps, because you're still like casting a lot more, but you're using a lot less power charges, and you're generating just a lot more consistently. As soon as you get the 4-link with Spell Echo in there, things become much, much smoother, and I was able to mostly consistently cast. A few exceptions here and there. Sometimes you're just unlucky and you don't crit enough, or you don't get enough power charges, but most of the time I was sitting comfortably at like max power charges at this point. I think it took me about 6 hours overall to get the campaign done, so that was pretty fast. Not the fastest, but 6 hours is like in the right time zone for me at least. I'm not the fastest runner, so if you're an actual good player you could probably do it much faster, but I think 6 hours is good enough. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how the campaign went. It was pretty smooth, and then it was time to get into maps. At this point it was getting pretty late though, so I ended up doing like just a few little maps with like some, well, not really all that sorted out gear and resistances. I was kind of like, I'll leave it for morning, but I just want to do a few maps at the very least, right? That ended up going just fine. Didn't really have any problems even getting into maps, so that was good. And then the following morning it was time to just kind of go over my gear and fix it. One of the first things that I tried to do, of course, when I woke up the following morning was to get into CI. I really wanted to see just how early I could switch into Chaos Inoculation. It is probably my favorite keystone in the game. I really like Energy Shield and the concept of it, so that's what I wanted to play as. And that's what I picked up. I didn't have the most Energy Shield, but it was enough to map with early on. Just, you know, play a bit safer, make sure you have Grace up as well, Grace Discipline. Those two will kind of like carry you through the early maps as long as you can get your resistances sorted out. And from there on, yeah. The skill was doing good damage. I didn't really run into any like brick walls progression-wise. I just stayed on top of my damage whenever I felt like it was like starting to lack a little bit. And then just get more gear pieces. Going over the gear and skills real quick, it's nothing too special. This is a pretty nice scepter that one of my private league members found, but it's just a damage scepter that you want really. It doesn't matter if it's a rune dagger or a wand or a scepter, just use anything you can find. I have like decent ES attributes and resist gear kind of everywhere at this point. A hubris, a 6-link spider silk that I actually was really lucky. I managed to find a 6-link uncorrupted pretty early on. That was very helpful. In a tier 11 map, I think I found one. And just some basic gear here as well. I'll quickly hover over it so you can see. It'll also be in the POE below, in the stream description as well, of course. Other than that, things are going pretty smoothly in the whole gearing aspect of things. This amulet is probably going to be one of the big things I'm going to change next, as I want to get a lot of crit multi on this amulet. Crit multi is very important, as Cold Snap of Power has a lot of base crit chance. As you can see, 10% base crit chance. So fixing your crit chance is pretty easy, but getting more crit multi will help push that damage up a lot, of course, and an amulet is a great way to do that. And the rest is honestly pretty basic gear at this point. I mean, it's only 24 hours into the league, right? Things are progressing smoothly. As for the passive tree, pick up some damage early on. You can take practical application if you need more strength and dexterity. If you need more resistances, always very useful. Early on, you can pick up some like health nodes here with Heart and Soul, with like Cruel Preparation, things like that. And unspecking those once I go for CI, of course. Take some energy shield nodes here. Power charges, very important. Heart of Ice, always a lot of damage. This mastery for enemies take increased damage while they've been frozen by you, combined with Winter's Embrace, is actually really good for Cold Snap of Power, because you do a lot of base damage and you have very high crit chance even early on. So you'll be freezing a lot of things and can consistently keep them frozen. This freeze duration will help with that a lot as well, pushing you past a lot of freeze thresholds for lots of enemies. And just honestly makes early mapping and early bossing a breeze, because you can just freeze them in place, you press focus, and you just right click and they don't move, you don't have to move, and you just wait until the health bar depletes. It's pretty good. Outside of that, there isn't really too much. I got lucky. One of my private league members found a early cluster jewel, so I managed to craft Sublime Form on here for the Grace mana reservation. That allowed me to fit in an Enfeeble Blasphemy. That was one of the things that I really wanted to get early on. I wish I could probably fit it in earlier, but it is what it is. I really do need Grace and Discipline in there. So that is definitely something to look forward to. I did get very lucky. I managed to drop an Enlighten. It's still level 1. I dropped it in a tier 6 map of all things. But this should help me get even more mana reservation into the build later down the line. But this wheel over here, the Wheel of Charisma, of course, and the mana reservation efficiency, mana mastery, that will allow you to fit in quite a few things, as you can see. I have a pretty low level clarity. It's level 7. I could probably upgrade this because I have 150 mana reserved, but I haven't really found the need to yet. At this point, I'm running like Discipline, Grace, Clarity, a Dread Banner, Generosity to reduce their nearby enemies have less accuracy. Combined with the Feeble, nearby enemies have less accuracy. Later down the line, I'm also going to be running a Disorienting Display on a large cluster jewel for even more reduced accuracy on enemies. So even though my evasion rating isn't going to be that high, combined with all of those things, and then combined with Wind Dancer, my evade chance is still going to be very, very high, which is going to be very useful, of course. We'll need to survive, so. Overall, there isn't really like too much more to say about this. There's no real like decisions to make when it comes to like unique items and pathing decisions. It's kind of just pick up the bare minimum of nodes, right? It's the first day, so this is what it's looking like. But yeah, that is kind of how the day 1 progress is going. It's very smooth so far. Overall, I think I'm doing pretty well. People are like leveling up pretty quickly. Level 87 at this point, the leveling is going very smoothly. Occultist progression is doing okay. Picked up some essence nodes, some Jun, Nico. I've been using Pact with Energy for mapping. This is a really nice node, especially with the amount of chance to contain Nico that is currently on the tree. This is just a very smooth map to run if you do manage to get a Nico in your map. Gives you a lot of damage, movement speed, a little bit of max res. Expecting to Kirak into Shaping the World, of course, just to get like more early map progression. And at this point, I'm starting to pick up some of the essence nodes because I want to start crafting up some gear that I can find. If I can find some like better ES pieces, like 300 ES Hubris or 300 ES Titanium, start pushing like a higher energy shield on a Val Regalia, for example, that will help bump the survivability up a lot. It's pretty good at this point, but it could be better, of course. And essences will in general allow me to do that. Also interested to see how these nodes, the new essence nodes, do, so I'll let you know tomorrow, I suppose. I'm hoping to get another build guide out tomorrow. But yeah, that's gonna be it for now. Thank you very much for watching this first one. Sorry it was a bit of a ramble. I'm not really sure how I want to do these yet, what kind of style I'm gonna do for these, but hopefully it was pretty coherent. If you have any questions, you can also ask in the comments below. You can check out my Twitch stream as well, of course. I'm live most days of the week there, so we'll be doing lots of our progression over there. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. Peace.